So, folks, we've been hearing time and time again that young men are falling by the wayside, that Gen Z is becoming more conservative, that we are, in fact, out of touch with the youth. And the youths are slipping through our fingers. So clearly we have to figure out how to stop the youths from going conservative. And what better way to learn what is attracting the youths to conservatism than from the mouth of maybe the most masculine conservative there is, Stephen
and so you
Crowder.
saw an entire generation vote in the savior, Barack Obama. And now you've seen more overwhelming control from the Democrat Party, where they control everything from your future prospects, affirmative action, DEI, to your language, hate speech laws. And so young people now are not saying, hey, what happens if I vote in the cool Democrats? They're going, I've lived under it.
Man, I can't wait to get to the meat of this from this coming up. I already have so many different things I want to say.
Yeah.
And I have less freedom than
the most divorced man in politics. He's got great advice for young guys.
My parents. Democrats are really trying to knock this next one out of the park with young men.
Nice.
Democrats, they're desperate to win over young men, and they are willing to spend many, many, many millions of dollars to do it. Here's the thing. In this last election, and I've told you...
And Stephen Crowder, he knows a thing or two about winning over young men, okay? I'm not going to elaborate on that.
You can go back to me when I was 22, 23, saying, look, young people tend to become more conservative as they grow older, as they have families, as they pay taxes, as they sort of accrue more responsibilities. But if you could just mitigate your losses...
Also, that's not true anymore. That was true in like the 1980s, like children who grew up in the 1980s, that was true of them. Not so much true of like millennials as we get older, or Gen Z as they get older, or Gen Alpha either.
With people under the age of 35 to 10% and kept everything else the same, you'd never lose another election again. I didn't expect people to begin voting, as far as a majority, Republican under the age of 30. I thought they would become more conservative. I didn't think that you would see that big of a switch.
Yeah.
And comment if you're a millennial like me, everything was liberal by default, right? You had baby boom generation, they were hippies, and they became more conservative. Gen X was still obviously more liberal, probably split kind of down the middle. Millennials, everything was Bush is a Nazi. Of course, Barack Obama, he's this transcendent political hero. I thought, all right, well, that's just something you're not going to win back until these people start paying taxes and move up in the corporate world. I didn't know just how bad the consequences were for Democrats with Gen Z men browbeating them, guilting them, demanding they check their privilege while creating an economy that is entirely unsustainable for them with no prospects of future. And here's the thing, too. It also tells you when you look at this, young men voting overwhelmingly conservative, certainly young Hispanic men, it means that free...
I say this as a former fan of Crowder, nothing brings more pleasure than remembering how badly he fell from grace with the right. Right? Isn't it nice? He basically went over to Rumble, and his numbers have been tanking ever since, by and large.
Stuff isn't working.
Yeah.
Forgiving your student loans, that's not enough. Rent forgiveness, that's a really good thing, because that means that you have a generation of people who've it's effectively white noise. Legacy media doesn't matter to them at all. At all. Neither does the power of Hollywood. Just look at Taylor Swift and beyond, look at their followership, and it still didn't move the needle. If anything, it went the other way with young men. And if you're, the question to millennials, if you're surprised by this, and then young Gen Z men, please comment below when you became conservative and why. There are a lot of reasons. A lot of people are studying this, psychologists, sociologists. I think there's some rebellion aspect, but I also just think, look, people are looking at the state of the country saying, yeah, Democrats have never delivered on the lie that they promised. And so now the Democrats are actually putting together a plan and spending tens of millions of dollars to try and win back young voters. Think of that phrase. And just listen to this broadcaster talk about it, who looks exactly like a Pekingese. You can see, yeah.
Can we like stop and like just, I don't know, examine the idea that, the youth are just more conservative than they ever have been in recent years? Right? Like, because if that's true, that would demand an answer, right? Like, why? Frankly, as far as I can tell from having looked this up, is that there was a shift in the voting pattern of people who voted in 2020, young men who voted in 2020 and that same age bracket of young men in 2024. And it became more conservative by like 10 points or something like that. 10% more likely to vote for Donald Trump. The issue is, one, that's not a solid predictor, number one. Largely because one election shift does not a trend make. But number two, and this is pretty interesting, well, just throw that up there. Nearly half of Gen Z voters have lied about who they're voting for, survey shows. So that kind of complicates things a little bit, doesn't it? You know, like that kind of that's a little bit it's just, I'm not sold on the concept. Oh, yep, young men are just overwhelmingly conservative now. I'm not sold on it. I need to see better evidence.
Here you go. Watch it.
The midterms fast approaching, and a full 6 months after November's electoral drubbing, the Democratic Party appears to still be in fact-finding mode. The New York Times reports that party donors and strategists have been gathering at luxury hotels to discuss how to win back working-class voters. And they're spending $20 million on an effort to try to figure out how to speak to young men.
Yeah, so the New York Times has...
I wonder what working-class voters want. I wonder what working class voters want. Is it better wages and healthcare and like reliable economic circumstances that they can depend on in order to start families? I wonder.
Labeled this plan, or at least this is how they describe it, Sam, speaking to American men. Sam. Think about that for a second. It should just be, you should only be speaking to American men and women. You shouldn't have to, that's not a niche group. That's not, okay, hey, let's look at this demographic of Americans. Wait, hold on a second. You mean you're a party? You're an American political party?
Yeah.
And now you have to figure out how to speak to Americans, which means what? They were speaking largely to non-Americans trying to buy a voting block.
Well, they tried speaking to immigrant male people.
Yes.
Simp.
Yes.
But it wasn't working.
It did not work at all. So SAM is going to cost $20 million, and it, quote, promises investment to study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces, meaning young male voters. We speak proper English. I don't know what you mean by this. It's not like it's Ebonics. Study the syntax.
You have to figure out.
Yeah. Part of their studies, by the way.
Racism. How novel. Jesus. You know, like... I know that basically Steven Crowder has always been this racist, but like, damn, I am suddenly reminded why we don't spend a ton of time talking about this clown.
Included immediately setting up a tip line. Unfortunately, it didn't help much.
Hi, this is Sam.
That's not helpful at all. So let me give you the reality here. All reference is available. Links in the description. 58% of Gen Z men voted for Trump. In 2020, 56% voted for Biden. And as far as Latino men, 55% voted for Trump. And then there are some other studies that have come out that have shown that over 60% of young Hispanic males are voting for Trump. That is unbelievable. And
yeah, especially it's going to be what's going to be really impressive, and what will definitely change my mind on this topic is if in the next election that trend continues, because then I genuinely think it's just children that have been indoctrinated in a cult, right? Like that's kind of my interpretation of this generally, is that you have a lot of these kids who have grown up, and Donald Trump has been in the news and on TV as a political figure, as a particularly masculinized political figure, you know, whose PR team is willing to make art of him as a buff, tough guy. I think that if you raise kids and they're around that image all the time, like they're gonna grow up and be kind of like that's the masculine guy. I gotta vote for him. Like that's just kind of I feel like that's kind of how it goes. They've been indoctrinated into the cult of personality. They've been raised on the slop.
Tells you something. First off, 68% of Gen Z men said that the economy was the #1 issue. But it also tells you that the illegal immigration issue, it doesn't register for young Hispanic or Latino males in this country. And I don't know how Democrats win them back, because if you are now, let's say, you're second, third generation immigrant, you're here in the United States, okay, you're a young Hispanic male, young Latino male, you're being raised here, there's no promise to you of getting citizenship. You already have it. It also tells you that the left, in promising, for example, to black...
It's literally that. Exactly, Gamer G. You look at the data more than I do. It's literally that. So many 18 to 24-year-olds just know Trump from their MAGA parents or TikTok slap and haven't developed their own political ideology yet, haven't seen how Trump actually governs. I see so many guys saying, wait, Trump isn't helping the economy. He's not cutting me a stimmy check. Yeah, I mean, like a bunch of insane promises. I don't know how much you guys remember of the 2024 election cycle, but Donald Trump was making insane promises. He was talking about ending the Ukraine-Russia war day one. He was talking about like coming into office and like world peace was going to happen and Gaza was going to be over and like it's going to be like a new level of prosperity for the world. Like if you're someone who's, you know, newly cooked politically and you aren't super aware of historically what Donald Trump did during the last time around he was president, you might just vote for him because he's like the manly guy.
Black people, reparations, affirmative action, black zones that they talk about, black community reinvestments. None of that is being promised to legal Hispanic males. And so now you have basically people who are not being promised a handout whatsoever because of their race, young Hispanic males.
Oh, legalize humanism. Thank you very much for subscribing. I appreciate that.
All right. Yeah, then you combine that with traditional values with a lot of these families.
Wait. I'm sorry. What are you talking about? God, he just spews so much bullshit.
Because if you are now, let's say, you're second, third generation immigrant, you're here in the United States, okay, you're a young Hispanic male, young Latino male,
okay,
you're being raised here.
Yep.
There's no promise to you of getting citizenship. You already have it. It also tells you that...
Yeah, so that they're citizens.
The left, in promising, for example, to black people, reparations, affirmative action...
Well, the reparations are for the slavery, Stephen. You wouldn't pay reparations to people you didn't enslave. So I'm reparations like redress a historical wrong, but okay.
Action, black zones that they talk about, black community reinvestments. None of that is being promised to legal Hispanic males.
Because their ancestors weren't enslaved by like the transatlantic slave trade. Like that. There are other wrongs we can talk about, but typically in the American context, when we are talking about reparations for enslaved peoples, we're talking about African Americans. And yeah, but like also there are going to be, I don't know, scholarships that are only available to Hispanic men. They're going to be, there are all kinds of different ways that different programs, orient themselves towards Hispanic men, towards Hispanic women. Like there are programs like that exist. Okay. To argue that they don't is just, well, I mean, it's one of the oldest tricks in the book. What he's trying to do here is he's trying to say, hey, are you Hispanic? Look at those black people over there. They're getting more stuff than you. You should dislike them. Don't work together with them. Fight them. Fight them instead of your boss. It really does boil down to that, doesn't it, huh?
And so now you have basically people who are not being...
Yes, I understand, MH. That's why I was trying to be more careful with my language. Because specifically, again, in the American context, when we're talking about reparations, we're talking about it for slavery of African American people.
Promised a handout whatsoever because of their race, young Hispanic males. All right. Yeah, then you combine that with traditional values with a lot of these family units and valuing masculinity. I think it's just going to continually lean more and more conservative. Honestly, I mean...
Aren't black people still affected by the effects of slavery? Yes, absolutely.
To tell young Hispanic males, young Latino males, that they should feel guilty because of patriarchy, like That's going to be a tough sell. You tried Latinx and they...
By the way, if you don't know anything about feminism, feminism isn't about making men feel guilty. That's literally never been what feminism is about.
said, go screw yourself. Like not a single one, not a single one went along with it. You would have to have multiple generations of brainwashing to convince them that the Democratic Party is beneficial to them. And there seems to be quite a bit of a divide with a lot of young Hispanic Latino males and young Black Americans. They do not have sympathy for
a long time too
George
to get over, because like I said, it is a culture that, it is enshrined in patriarchy. I mean, it's guy goes out, works hard for his family.
Yep.
The whole immigrant thing is you go out, you work hard for your family, send the money back.
And you know what?
You bring them back. Then you get a visa. Then you get a citizenship.
And you know what you see? When you see young, working class, as I said, working class. Okay, working class, meaning contributing, paying taxes, trying to make a life for their family. You find Hispanic males, young Latino males, and young white males. There is...
it's really interesting that he's talking about Latino support for Donald Trump. Let's just take a look at something real quick here. Can we do that? The new YouGov poll that came out. Let's just take a look here. President Trump's approval rating has dropped to just 42% after his first 100 days, significantly lower than Biden's 54% at this point. A majority of Americans now fear his aggressive tariff policies will raise consumer prices, et cetera, et cetera. But Latino support for Trump collapses from 47% to 26%. And this is based on polling from last month. So it has only gotten worse as this anti-immigration crackdown has continued. We're really in some whoopsie territory here.
Isn't that a beautiful thing? In other words, the American spirit of American exceptionalism, the land of opportunity.
To be fair, I've encountered feminists who are of the kill all men variety. Yeah, but I genuinely, I'm... Here's where I struggle with that, right? That is such a small number of people that this is like taking genuine offense from black Hebrew Israelites, like the like hoteps, like being genuinely offended by when they say shit. It's just not that offensive to encounter someone who's saying kill all men. I think it's bad. I don't think they should say that, but ultimately, I don't think that meaningfully moves the needle towards you being harmed in any way. These people don't hold power. They aren't making decisions over your life. They aren't directing a meaningful movement of any kind. They're not seeking to control politics and make that a codified policy. They're saying it in a colloquial sense. And I just, it's objectionable, sure, but that's about the extent of it, right? Yeah, also those feminists are bad at feminist theory, and I would just really, really emphasize that feminism is about freeing everyone, men, women, non-binary folks, from the constraints of patriarchy. The expectation that men shouldn't cry, or that men are less capable than women, or that and when I say that, you might be like, well, that's not what patriarchy says. It's literally what patriarchy says when it comes to men feeling emotions or teaching their children or being able to love and be loved in return. Patriarchy teaches men that they are less capable than women in those ways. And it's just not true. It's not all about men bad, and that's what the right lies about. Feminism is about liberation, not oppression. Exactly. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out there.
Hey, you now see, once you're no longer playing divide and conquer, young Hispanic males are basically promised the same thing that young white males are. Nothing. Toil by the sweat of your brow. And what do you see? They vote the exact same. Even before.
I'd clump young Asian males into that too, but no one talks about them.
Probably quite a few.
It's not good for their agenda to talk about it.
So here are three.
What agenda? What are you talking about? What an insane thing to throw out there. Yeah, also no one cares about Asian men either. What? What are you talking about? There's no one that hates men quite as much as conservative like talking heads, you know? Like there's no one hates men quite like how conservatives hate men. They constantly tell you that the world hates you for being a man, and it's just not true.
3 reasons I think that Democrats lost young men by wide margins. Okay, here's one is the LGBTQ plus push by Democrats.
Yeah.
First off, we know that doesn't go over well across all generations with the Hispanic male community, but 72% of Gen Z men oppose trans men in women's sports. 72%.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's because they haven't met any trans people. You know, like when you're younger, you don't have as much control over the kind of people you meet. It's weird, right? The constant vilification. Well, these younger people, well, they don't think trans people deserve equal rights in that way. And it's just like, well, I wonder where they're getting that idea from. I wonder how inundated by the messages of mainstream media and conservative media, I wonder where they're getting all of that belief from.
They have fatigue. Well, they have black fatigue is a thing now as far as Black Lives Matter, as far as reparations, as far as restorative justice, as far as critical race theory, things like toxic masculinity. They're tired of hearing.
Also, can we just take a look at something real quick? Just going to type in Gen Z more gay. Let's see here. More than 1 in 5 Gen Z adults ranging in age from 18 to 26 in 2023 identify as LGBTQ. Just 20%. Now I'm going to throw this out there. I don't believe these polling numbers, specifically when it comes to like, 3 in 4 Gen Z men don't believe trans people should exist or whatever, or shouldn't play in sports. Genuinely, I think that's a bullshit number. And I think it's a bullshit number because if 20% of Gen Z is some form of LGBTQ, well, let me just say I don't think 72% of men are against queer people or queer rights. And like trying to portray like Gen Z as like in opposition to LGBTQ rights is just horribly off the mark. Like, I think maybe there's a lot of confusion in mainstream media and conservative media around like trans sports stuff, but when it comes to LGBTQ stuff, generally they're on board.
Hearing this, they're tired of being condemned for immutable characteristics over which they have no control, and the Democrat Party just doesn't seem to be able to remove their foot from their own dick because they keep pushing LGBTQ themes across the board when Gen Z.
Why is he implying that the Democrats have huge dicks? Why would you do that? If you can step on your own dick, that's frankly impressive. That's a freakishly big dick, actually. But we all know that's not abnormal for Steven Crowder.
The men have said, stop it!
I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age.
Are we topless at the...
Oh yeah. Gen Z men famous for not liking titties. Gen Z men famous for not liking topless trans girls.
A YouGov poll said 10% of Republicans said they know a trans person really well, and 10% of Republicans say trans people do not have enough rights, almost as if once they know us it dispels the lies.
Yeah, exactly, Gamer G. Oh god. But also men famous for not liking boobs. It's honestly insane because I regularly forget that this happened. Like, if a conservative never brought up this incident to me again, I would just not, it doesn't stay in my brain. It's not an important event. Like, I think she's a badass for, like, going topless because guess what? Steven Crowder. What was the point of that protest? Exactly. If you're conservative in the audience, what was the point of that protest? As a question to all of you, the point of that protest is that conservatives were saying that she's a man. And if she's a man, why are you blurring out her tits? If she's a man, why can't she be topless? Men can be topless, can they not? But like, when it comes to like Steven Crowder is like, yes, that is obviously a man, but we need to blur her nipples. She's so manly. We need to blur her exposed chest. You know, as we do with all men that are shirtless in our Steven Crowder videos.
Sometimes size does matter. I would never order a small drink, but I can drive an 18-wheeler home, but I'm not going to try to park it in my garage.
Sorry, you're blue. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Also, I think I have to add 5 donos. I think we're at 57.
White House.
We are joined by Dr. Rachel Levine. She's also a trailblazer and happens to be the first openly transgender.
Wait. I actually didn't notice this. Wait.
Are we topless at the White House?
So wait. Okay. Wait. So I'm sorry. Just to. Okay. So they blur out his chest. So it's not okay for a man to be topless. Why did you blur out both chests? I'm just so curious. Like, it doesn't make any sense, even if you're conservative. Wait, what? They blurred out a man's chest. Like, I don't know. It seems like you're either saying... I don't know. It's just not consistent is all I'm pointing out here. Are they trying to blur out the top surgery scars? No, they're trying to be transphobic, but I think their method of blurring chests kind of reveals their hand, and I find it very funny. Anyway.
We are joined by Dr. Rachel Levine. She's also a trailblazer and happens to be the first openly transgender federal official.
Chevy trailblazer?
Can we like just take a moment and be like, I definitely have seen women who look like Rachel Levine. Like, I'm sorry. Y'all have been out in the world. You're not sheltered. You know that women look like Rachel Levine all the time. All the time. You know it. Also, Thistles Fries, thank you for being a member. Appreciate you.
Guess we gotta tuck away the nips now. Never have nips, people. The worst.
No nip gang.
Dr. Levine, we appreciate you making the time to speak with us on this, the first
Like
day
a
of
rock.
Pride Month.
Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that.
Wait, no, this is actually more consistent that rules that single out ladies' chest? Well, yes, it's more consistent, but not with conservative standards. They're not being consistent in the way that no conservative, if there was like a shirtless video of like Marco Rubio at the pool or something, no conservative outlet would blur his chest. I'm sorry, that's just not true. That's just not real.
As a moral question and as a legal question, I just think it's wrong. To everyone celebrating Transgender Day of Visibility, I want you to know that your president sees you, and we're committed to advancing.
Man, I'm so glad he saw us. If he hadn't seen us, think of all of the things he could have done instead. Boy, did seeing us really help us. Thanks a lot, Joe. I feel like Biden failed us too. He did exactly jack shit for us.
In transgender equality in the classroom, on the playing field, at work, in our military, in our housing and healthcare systems, everywhere, simply everywhere.
So today, I am directing my state agencies to take action to protect and support the rights of Minnesota's LGBTQIA plus community.
Also, Tim Walz is based as hell. Tim Walz actually fights for trans people, and Tim Walz actually has protections on the books for trans people in the state of Minnesota. So Tim Walz actually did shit, and I think that's good.
And here's the thing. Millennial men, they saw all these sob stories of, oh, wait a second, this gay couple, one's in the death but can't put his partner, his friction partner into his will. Well, that's sad. Yeah. We should allow that, right? So gay marriage, because we lived an experience.
Man, this man is so salty about not being married anymore. He's like, if I can't be married, then no one else can. Give me that. He's trying to wrestle gay marriage out of the hands of the gays.
Experience where it didn't exist, and then we saw it come into existence. But now you have young Gen Z men who are going, all right, okay, I guess someone's trans, and then they're hearing people like Walz, people like Kamala Harris, and they're going, wait a second. You don't believe that I should be able to tell my children to not do that? And they point to the narcissistic sociopath tranny in their class?
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to say that your kid can't transition. It's medically necessary care, man. Wait, you're telling me that I legally can't torture my child? What an infringement on my rights. I had an Iron Maiden ready to go and everything. I was gonna put little Timmy in there and just listen to his screams instead of watching Fox News all the time. Like, that's how these people, like, live their lives. It's like, hey, should I help my child and give them the health care that they need to live? Or should I make their life a living hell and make them want to kill themselves? I just can't decide.
So wait a second. So I'm not going to have parental rights?
Yeah, you shouldn't have the parental right to torture your child. Yeah. I'm a firm believer in anti torture your child
I'm
laws.
tired of these transvisibles. Can't see any of you, and then that one day a year, bam, there you are.
The transvisibles. Always behind the scenes. Watching, waiting, pulling levers, controlling.
So it's because of their lived experience, and the lie can no longer be sold.
Yeah. Well, they're losing.
What lie? Notice how, like, there's been a shift where it's just like constantly these conservative channels allude to them or a lie, but they never really articulate what they're talking about. They just rely on innuendo in order to, like, carry their points without actually making an argument or any claims. It's very interesting to watch, like, on a rhetorical level.
Rights along the way, right? I think, just like you said, we were like, all right, fine, the friction partner thing, you want some rights that maybe you don't have. Okay, fine. I don't even agree with that, but whatever. I'm not so worried
Civil
about that.
union,
Now it's
sure.
Now it's like, I can't say that that's a guy. It looks like a guy. I didn't know it was a girl, or vice versa. I didn't know it was a she that turned into a. I didn't know that. Now you're getting in trouble for that. Now you're being ostracized for that. Now you're the piece of crap in the classroom. Just
notice. I just want to really point out what these people do, right? They take a story and then they blow it up beyond all recognition. And then what they do is they say, let's sit down and imagine together. It's kind of like a fucked up Mr. Rogers, where, like, they just enter the world of imagination.
Trans vegetables? Is that when somebody puts way too much marshmallow on a sweet potato and it's definitely no longer healthy? Or like kettle corn?
I guess so, Paladin. Thank you for the $5 dono. But, like, what they're trying to do is that they know that there's a portion of their audience that is impressionable and young, and what they're trying to do is to feed enough stories about how they hate you. You're just going to be a mild-mannered student minding your own business, and then one day, bam, you misgender someone and you're off to gender jail, where they all point and laugh at you and call you mean names and say your dick looks funny. And then everyone remembers it forever. Your life is ruined, and there's no way you can improve it. That's what these gender feminists are like. That's right. They're all gonna laugh at you and make you feel small and pathetic. But you know what? We can stop them if we just eradicate them at the source. That's right. Just don't allow your children to get transed. And, like, that's what they did. That's what they do, right? Like, they just, like, take an imaginary scenario and they run through it for their audience of impressionable children to like try and get them to be like, yeah, it really is like that. And I'm not going to think about it any more than that. You did all the thinking for me. Thanks for the narrative. And then they just like go whistling about their day and occasionally like throw out a slur or something, you know? Gender jail is what I call my dysphoria. Oh no. The first trans woman I knew because I ID'd her selling her alcohol. She was sweet about it because she hadn't updated her ID and she saw my brain misfire. Her and her girlfriend were so sweet. Hell yeah, beefy McSteak. I'm mad at this thing I made up is like 90% of conservatism these days.
Just because you're a white guy.
Yeah. Well, we were
they're gonna hate you because you're white. Like I'm sorry. I've lived through our public education system. I've lived through our higher education system. I've lived through like, you know, The Office here in America, and gotta say, no one's walking up and saying, "Hey, we hate you because you're white." Like that doesn't happen. I'm sorry.
Sold a lie that George, aside from the Patriot Act, that the Republican Party wanted control over every aspect of your life, right? Stay out of our bedroom.
Yeah.
And so you saw an entire generation vote in Barack.
It was literally illegal to have gay sex in states. There were states where it was still illegal to have gay sex. There were states where it was illegal to get married. Like, oh, we don't want to micromanage what you do. Looks at the entire history of the conservative movement here in America. Fuck off.
The savior, Barack Obama. And now you've seen more overwhelming control from the Democrat Party, where they control everything from your future prospects, affirmative.
The Democrats control your future prospects through affirmative action?
Action, DEI, to your language.
Okay, so you're saying that through affirmative action and DEI programs, the Democratic Party is controlling you. Let's examine that a little bit, just like a tiny, tiny bit. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but affirmative action and DEI programs aren't mandated by the state. They're typically mandated by the organization, by the company. They are adopted as practices that are CYA. It is for cover your ass purposes. Okay? Specifically, these things are adopted not out of a genuine good faith nature, like intention to like make the company more diverse, though sometimes they can be. These companies adopt these policies and these programs in order to avoid lawsuits that are expensive, that cost the company money, that are preventable if you just have a competent HR department. And so the entire purpose of these programs is to avoid those lawsuits, so that when someone is trying to allege that they were discriminated against by the company can point out how they've had a very successful DEI initiative for the past 25 years. And that is something that matters in court, it turns out, when making these arguments. So, I don't know. Also, good question, Benjamin Kessler. Is this an old episode of Steven Crowder? Don't Republicans control all branches of the government right now? And no, this is not an older episode of Steven Crowder. This is a newer one, actually. And yes, the Republicans control all branches of government, but conservatives still need to feel like they are the oppressed ones with no power. And so they continue to talk about how Democrats are secretly controlling everything from behind the scenes with like programs that companies voluntarily like put into place, and it's crazy.
Hate speech laws. And so
yeah, they're controlling your language with hate speech laws. Ignore the fact that historically here in America, we've had laws curtailing your speech, including obscenity laws and blasphemy laws for literal centuries. But it's weirdly enough, in Steven Crowder's world, only Democrats have any kind of laws policing what you can say, and definitely never goes the other way.
Young people now are not saying, hey, what happens if I vote in the cool Democrats? They're going, I've lived under it.
Yeah.
And I have less freedom than my parents. And they're rejecting it. And they also, I think, see some value.
Yeah. I think they're rapidly finding out that might have been a mistake, man.
Tradition. This also goes to point number 2. You know, I came up under Andrew Breitbart, and he said that everything was downstream from culture. Right? Politics is downstream from culture. That's why Barack Obama required the media entertainment industrial complex. Yeah. And it hasn't worked. To give you a good example, Brian Stelter. Right now, he's on CNN. Brian Stelter was one of the people spearheading the smear campaign against Joe Rogan, right? And ivermectin.
It's a dull spear.
He actually thought he was going to win because he thought, hey, we're the legacy media, right? We have all of these institutions. We have an army. It's just
win what? What are you alleging he thought he was going to win here?
Just one guy. They didn't realize just how resoundingly they've been rejected. Brian Stelter, right now, super straight on CNN. That just shows you what we're dealing with. Young people.
Come on, we can't. Come on, Tim. Help.
I'm sorry. Did Steven Crowder just have the audacity to call someone else super straight? Come on. Oh, you silly goose. Just get it over with, Steven. You'll be a lot happier.
Help me out here. We got Stelter on there, and we can't play. Yes.
I thought you were wanting to put him on TV. On the show.
And he,
man, the Steven Crowder bits have really gone downhill.
Thought he was going to exterminate Joe Rogan's career, which again brings us back to this point number 2 is pop culture. The media, TV, Hollywood, they have saturated everything with far left, quote unquote, woke content.
Yeah. So again, now he's saying like, well, Democrats controlled your entire life when it came to your job. And also what you say, Democrats also control all of Hollywood and culture from Hollywood.
This has been the default where Gen Z men have grown up with this. It has been so ubiquitous that they had to go to alternatives to see anything else. The difference is now alternatives have been available. It wasn't available in the past. Because you're going to sit down, you're going to take it.
What do you mean alternatives weren't available in the past? Are you trying to allege that in the past there were like less I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Are you trying to argue that like white chicks was woke? Like I'm confused here. What are you aiming at here, Steven? Brilliant. Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships over on YouTube. Greening up the joint. Thank you very, very much.
And that's it. You're going to watch what we give you. Let me give you a very prime example of this is like Pedro Pascal, who's now in everything.
Literally.
This is a man who is a self-avowed socialist. This is a man who is vocally...
Yo, he's a self-avowed socialist? Damn, Pedro Pascal. I would love... I would love to have him on the show. Maybe I'll reach out to his agent. We'll see if we can get Pedro Pascal on the show.
Pro-trans, famously wore the COVID mask that said science is real, Black Lives Matter, love is...
I'm sorry. If I thought that LGBTQ stuff made people less popular in the eyes of Gen Z, but this man is wearing like gay pro-science face masks and fighting for trans rights, and he's one of the most prolific actors of the day. I guess Hollywood is really just not in tune with what's popular. So strange.
Is love and no human is illegal.
That's a big mask.
And it's just none of those slogans on their face even...
Also, his sister is trans and they're adorable together.
Makes sense. Even just in isolation. No human is illegal. What? Of course someone can... Well, are they out in society when they're supposed to be in jail? Did they break out? Are they in a country where they're not supposed to be? Love is love? Well, hold on a second. What about animals? What about age of consent?
Pedophilia.
Black lives...
What are you talking about? I feel like I stopped listening for like half a second and suddenly he's talking about that. Jesus Christ. All right, we'll backtrack real quick to figure out how he got on that point. Benjamin Kessler, thank you very much for the gifted membership.
On their face even makes sense. Thing.
Literally.
This is a man who is a self-avowed socialist. This is a man who is vocally matter, love nothing. None of those slogans on their face even make sense. Science is real, Black Lives Matter, love is love, and no human is illegal.
That's a big mask.
And it's just none of those slogans on their face even make sense.
Oh, do they not make sense? Because you seem really triggered by what they mean. You know, like if they don't make sense, why are you so triggered? If it's just the gobbledygook here, Stephen, why are you so triggered by it?
Even just in isolation.
Yeah, science is real doesn't make sense. Exactly.
No human is illegal. What? Of course someone can. Well, are they out in society when they're supposed to be in jail? Did they break out? Are they in a country where they're not supposed to be?
Well, Stephen, there's something different between being guilty of a crime and your existence being illegal in and of itself, right? Like, if you have done a crime, that crime was illegal. You as a person are not illegal. Does that make sense? When you break parole, you are committing a crime, and that's illegal. But your life is not illegal. Like, there's a difference there between these things, and it's I feel like not a difficult thing to understand.
Is love? Well, hold on a second. What about animals? What about age of consent?
Pedophilia.
I'm sorry, like, what about animals? No. What about animals? What about animals? While we're talking about Steven Crowder talking about something on its face, can we take a moment to examine how Steven Crowder reacting to the phrase "love is love" and asking as his immediate follow-up question, what about the animals? That, on the face of it, makes absolutely no sense. That doesn't make sense. Like, if you hear someone say love is love and you're like, what about animals? Like, the previous statement didn't have anything to do with animals. Now, I know he's trying to like make a smear about like bestiality or something here, but like, understand in this circumstance, that's him being a weird little freak. You know? Like, he's the one playing weird little freak games here. No. I understand the implication he's trying to make, but on the face of it, it's just responding to a simple statement, love is love, and responding to it, but animals, though. Like, if you took away all of the context of love is love, and you then like brought up animals after that, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, his is the brain going there.
Black Lives Matter? I mean, sure, no one's saying that they don't. Science is real. Well, no one's questioning.
No one's saying they don't. There were, though. You were one of those voices.
Questioning the scientific method. Do you mean the dogmatic call?
Wait, I'm sorry.
Or no one's saying that they don't. Science is real. Well, no one's questioning the scientific method.
Literally, there are people questioning the scientific method. I'm sorry, literally that is like the bedrock of conservatism, throwing doubt on the scientific method itself.
Do you mean the dogmatic cult of modern? He just encapsulates
the dogmatic cult of science. No one's questioning the scientific method, just the dogmatic cult of science. Like, I'm sorry, what does that mean? What is the dogmatic cult of science? Like, it's a bunch of people adhering to the scientific method and then like checking each other, like looking at each other's work and trying to develop their own scientific theories. Like, it's not all right.
Everything that is wrong and smug about Hollywood, he's actually taken that title from George Clooney. He comes from a long line of Chilean socialists, which is the reason for Pinochet, by the way. Helicopter ride might not have been the worst idea. He supported openly the Chilean socialist candidate in 2021, saying, I'm a child of socialist political refugees. We are very, 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 very liberal. And this video from the Last of Us set, I guess, isn't helping. This is the kind of thing that young men are saying, I don't want to be with that.
Freak.
Can we also just like take a moment and like, conservatives love Pinochet. Conservatives, it took me a moment to process what he was saying, but he's trying to say Pedro Pascal is a fan of Pinochet. He's not. Pinochet is a conservative dictator who persecuted socialists. Oh my God, his rainbow stick, right? He's saying that he wants to emulate Pinochet. I don't think that someone who's a socialist wants to emulate a guy who persecuted socialists.
And I don't even know what that is.
It's definitely not a guy who would survive an apocalypse.
No,
he's saying that the failed socialist policies led to Pinochet. No, but you guys aren't understanding what I'm saying. You guys aren't understanding what I'm saying. It's that Steven Crowder is a fan of Pinochet. American conservatives are fans of Pinochet. You guys aren't understanding what I'm talking about. It's more like Steven Crowder saying that Steven Crowder would like to emulate Pinochet. Yes, which is what I'm saying. Like, that makes sense. Steven Crowder and people like him have long supported Pinochet directly, both like materially at the time and also ideologically.
It's definitely not.
He wouldn't even survive an analopolis.
No.
I didn't even get that.
If he had to do time in prison, they would.
An analopics? What?
Just show that video to play. Oh, we're going to have fun with you. So,
man, you know, for a bunch of guys who are presumably straight, they do talk about fucking men a lot on this show. Like, it's pretty weird that they're like talking about raping Pedro Pascal. That's really disturbing and gross.
And here's the thing, when we grew up, you had plenty of female characters, and you had plenty of male characters, and you had plenty of white characters and black characters. I mean, if you were to look at...
Did you? Did you, though? Because you didn't. Like, there are statistical breakdowns for you, bud.
The top shows. When we grew up, we've talked about this. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Urkel was a big one. You look at Will Smith. You look at Denzel Washington. Athletes. Michael Jordan. Mike Tyson. Michael Jackson. I get it. It's not lost. I mean, that's kind of a half point. But you understand. You had women. If you go to Fresh Prince, you had the sisters. And there were storylines that surrounded around them. You had Sarah Connor.
Still, you know.
You had Alien growing up with Sigourney Weaver. Now they...
Yep. You had Sarah Connor and Sigourney Weaver and... Oh, we're all out of time.
Weren't all action heroes. If you look at the Breakfast Club, it was partially women, it was partially guys. You look at 16 Candles.
Yeah, if you look at movies, there were guys and girls in those movies. Let's just not look at the roles, like who got the roles in those movies. Who got which roles exactly?
You look at Home Alone, you had Macaulay Culkin, but the mom was primarily the main character. In other words, it was pretty...
the mom was the main character of Home Alone? That's insane. That's an insane thing to say. Thistles for Eyes, thank you for the gifted membership. I appreciate it. This man was raised on pop culture. Seduction Productions is a member of the chat. Okay, all right, okay. Oh God, thank you for the gifted membership. Yeah, we all know the main character of Home Alone wasn't Macaulay Culkin. It was the mom, who is apparently not even a named character.
Pretty balanced.
And we all know Macaulay Culkin's character name in Home Alone was Macaulay Culkin.
They say that it wasn't, but it was, and it wasn't something that we all had to think about at all times and have all content be dictated to us by committee. And so when you look at where we are now, you see the gender swaps and the racial swaps. You've now made people aware of something that maybe they didn't even have a problem with before. So you look at Ghostbusters.
Well, I mean, back in the day, there were also gender swaps and race swaps that happened during production of a lot of those original films that were based on books or, you know, previous comic books or whatever. That happened already from source material to like movie or TV adaptation. But also, we're doing an awful lot more movie and TV adaptations today of previously existing movies and TV. And I don't know if people understand this, but as time changes, there's different people. So you can't just cast the same people as before. You have to cast new people. And sometimes the best actor or actress for a job might not be the one you were expecting. That happens in casting sometimes.
Sucked. Look at Ocean's 8. Sucked. Indiana Jones.
Wait. Ocean's 8 sucked? Ocean's 8 sucked. Wait a minute. This is my controversial take, okay? My controversial take is that I really fucking liked Ocean's 8. It was fun. Also, holy shit. The women in this movie are so fine. They're so fine.
Pay my bills. Because it's what I'm good at.
Also, oh my god, her outfits are so good. Her outfits are so good. Sorry, did the fucking aura of her just crossing her legs there.
In 3.5 weeks, the Met will be hosting.
Look, the fucking aura on Cate Blanchett. It's unparalleled. I'm not even saying it's like the best Ocean's 11 movie, but it's really fun. Have I seen the Cate Blanchett in rope bondage photo shoot? No, I haven't. You son of a bitch, I'm in. Exactly. But yeah, apparently to Steven Crowder, that feels too much. It's too much, I tell you.
Star Wars, pretty much all of Marvel.
Oh my god, there are now women in Indiana Jones and Star Wars and almost all of the Marvel movies. Not women. Those were all for the guys.
And the problem with those isn't that they're female characters or they're gay characters or whatever. The problem with those is that they're replacing.
Yes.
That there was something.
Replacing what? I'm sorry, what was being replaced in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? What was being replaced when, like, I don't know, any of the Marvel movies happened? You weren't getting like comic direct faithful adaptations for any of those. Like, it would be fine if it was like its own thing. And like you were mad about Ocean's 8, which was its own thing.
Right. And then they're like, oh, well, we need to make a different version of this.
Right.
No. We were fine when it was just female characters.
That's just capitalism. They're just remaking shit and making it a little bit different so that you'll keep buying tickets. It's a dupe on you, I say. A dupe. Hey, Ivory Valentine, thank you for the $5 super chat. Absolutely made my night. Ocean's 8 is my favorite just for fun movie of all time. It's so fun. And the outfits are so good.
Black characters, Asian characters,
Sure.
gay characters, whatever it is, if it's an original thing, that it didn't bother anybody. But it's when you're saying, oh, what we had before was you,
Right.
and you're not good enough, we're going to replace it with something else.
No one was demanding that George Clooney played Malcolm X in the biopic.
Yeah.
It's true.
We were okay with it.
I would like to see it.
No one was demanding George Clooney play Malcolm X in the biopic, just like no one was demanding that King Louis be played by Idris Elba. And by the way, we were completely fine with Will Smith being the single highest paid action hero of the decade.
Yeah, still fine with it.
All of those were fine.
I was going to.
Yeah, and as we all know, Will Smith is the entirety of Hollywood industry, and there's no one else all the way down the food chain that gets involved where it might be inequitable in the Hollywood system. As we all know, if you get to the top of the system, like that's, you know, you're just the top of the system. You know, like all inequalities below you don't matter. Bacon Force Alpha, thank you for subscribing on Twitch.
Every one of them. I was like, he's in another movie.
Every single one of them we had.
And Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
No one had a problem with it until you just started telling us that we need to correct something that didn't need to be corrected.
Okay, wait. Like, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going out on a limb and guessing that Denzel Washington has probably encountered some, you know, racism while working as a movie star. He talks about it rather frequently in interviews. Like, he also talks about how he has been asked about it ad nauseum to such a degree that he gets upset when the concept of diversity is brought up, because he feels like the only reason he's being asked that is because of his skin color. And like, understandable. He's one of the biggest black actors of all time, and I'm sure he gets a ton of questions like that. But to act like, oh, everyone was fine with it, nah, that's not true. And he's talked about it numerous times in the past.
Corrected. By the way, this is also not because they're trying to make something, as far as Hollywood, representative of our society. They are trying to mold.
Oh, true. The thing is, Paladin, you are absolutely correct. It is okay to either like or dislike an all-female cast movie. I think your example of Ocean's 8 being good and like the Ghostbusters reboot attempt being bad, I think that's a great example. Like the 2016 Ghostbusters, I did not like it. I did not care for it one bit. But Ocean's 8 was good. Both similar concepts when it comes to casting, pretty significant differences when it came to execution.
Society. Just look at the overrepresentation of LGBTQ AIP couples. So they make up at least 9% of regularly occurring characters on TV shows. That's a 13 times increase, despite the fact that they make up anywhere from 2 to 5% of the population. You can find some numbers in recent years as high as 15 to 20% of on-air couples.
And they often feel forced.
Yes, they very much
feel forced, and they force love scenes.
It often feels forced. They're forcing me to watch it. They put so much gay stuff on my screen. Sometimes my wife walks in and I have to say, honey, I didn't look for this. It just forced its way onto my desktop. I didn't look for this. It just forced its way onto my computer. No, honey, I didn't type in Pornhub.com. It forced its way into my URL bar.
And you're like, what? If you're looking at the dialogue of the movie, you're like, doesn't even make sense. They just wanted to put a gay scene in here.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is Disney especially is renowned for shoehorning. They love to take something that doesn't belong and just shove it in there and make it happen. That's
both true literally and, I guess, metaphorically.
Yeah, famously, no other films have ever shoehorned unnecessary parts into their movies. Truly, that is only Disney, and definitely not for financial reasons so that they can easily remove LGBTQ people from films in order to better market them and release them in countries where it's illegal to be gay.
Yeah. Well, this brings us to the next point. I guess it's point 3 or point 4 with young Gen Z men. It's pretty hard to blame people.
That's a good point, Paladin. A lot of TV shows are about people who live and work in metropolitan areas in major cities, and those are places where people have a lot more gays. And that's true. It's almost like that lends a certain air of veritas to the production. Almost like there's a certain je ne sais quoi about the gays. And also, let's be real here. People like Steven Crowder love seeing the gays in things so that they can rush to their little show and make a bunch of hateful comments about how there are gay people in a thing now and get like 100,000 views easy on like a clip from it. You know, they it's kind of their like entire business model these days.
Well, men, namely white men, but Hispanic men are throwing their lot in there because you're not promising them a bunch of freebies either, assuming they're here legally. It's pretty hard to blame them for all of society's ills and tell them that there's nothing they can actually do to correct it, short of lowering their own quality of life without them rejecting it. It's the
who's making these arguments? Like, there's nothing you can do about it unless you lower the quality of your own life. What are you talking about? Like, be specific. You're making vague claims. Make a concrete claim.
Constant vilification of masculinity. And we see this trend on the left. Look, this is not hyperbole. They pretty much have, for the last decade and a half, blamed men exclusively for everything wrong.
For the last 15 years, the left has blamed men exclusively for everything wrong. Elaborate on that, please?
I mean, this is a serious crisis, the state of men, hypermasculinity, man up, be a man. I mean, what is going on in this space?
We need more of that.
God, Gavin Newsom is such a piece of shit. Who's he interviewing here? This is Gavin Newsom. Who is he interviewing here? He did he did a show with Newt Gingrich, with Dr. Phil, Amy Klobuchar. God, fucking Amy. Was this Frank Lutz? No, May 7th? Let's go a little bit further down. May 7th. This is how Democrats win back men with Jason Katz. I don't know who that is. Let's find out. Educator made a program around preventing gendered violence. Seems to have some pretty significant bona fides academically. All right, well, let's hear him out.
Courage.
Is that new?
What about social courage, which is to say speaking up in the face of, abuse, whether it's, your friends of yours making derogatory comments or online spaces where guys are being really disrespectful to girls,
men already
or women,
did.
and calling them out and saying, hey, that's not cool.
There's too much of toxicity. It's masculine toxicity.
Wait. Okay, so in this montage, hey, you should stand up for people who your friends are making fun of if they're like being bigoted. Okay, that shouldn't be a high bar for your friends to clear.
That's not cool.
There's too much of toxicity. It's masculine toxicity out there.
Another.
We've kind of
It looks like he
confused
huffs paint.
what it means
He's
to be
never
a
been in
man.
a fight.
What the?
Yeah, I don't think they know what toxic masculinity is. I think they're just playing that buzzword without context to an audience that is primed to think that toxic masculinity means that masculinity itself is toxic.
What the hell are you waiting for? Because if it's the woman thing, it's time to get over that. It's time for hope, for change. It's time to be a man and vote for a woman.
We know that the silent majority of white men aren't actually MAGA supporters.
I'm a 56-year-old gun-owning white guy. Kamala Harris thinks I'll vote for her. She's right.
Hey, white dudes. So I think we're all pretty sick of hearing how much we suck every time.
Wait, so are they trying to argue that like culture and society are all right?
You go online, it's the same story. We're the problem. And yeah, some white dudes are. Trump and all his MAGA buddies are out there making it worse, shouting nonsense in their stupid red hats and acting like they speak for us when they don't.
I feel like really bummed that the right wing is like really dooming a lot of trying to doom a lot of little boys into unhappiness and like conditioning a lot of men into loneliness.
Right.
That's absolutely true. If you behave like what Steven Crowder's been outlining throughout this entire video, you're gonna be lonely. Like 10,000%. Like, this man is the most divorced man alive, aura-wise, for a reason. He's not gonna be able to teach you how to have good friendships or how to have healthy relationships.
So let's go with that for a second. It's like, yeah, some white dudes do suck. Those are just Trump voters, but they don't represent the rest of us. Okay, so young white men go, all right, what do you got? Sit down, shut up, silence is violence, check your privilege, LGBTQ AIP, be an ally, and be a man, vote for a woman.
We're also tired of being the only people you can say that about.
Yeah.
Now I can see a commercial, it's like, bow now, some black dudes suck.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. and then just show a montage that we showed earlier.
Yeah.
Like, it's frustrating to be like, why you keep browbeating. You say it all the time, you're browbeating this.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like any kind of cultural context around black people being discriminated against and how white people might be discriminated against. I wonder if there's any like cultural context or historical context that might alter the public perception and acceptability of those two different things. I wonder if anything might lead to that. Oh, BS, these losers all say it. Yeah, I mean, like, no one's coming after these guys. They're fine in their cushy little studio, you know? But you can't say that anymore. That thing I just said, you can't say it anymore.
Knock it off.
Look at this chick. Bet she can't do pull-ups. it's
Why are you all laughing at that? That wasn't that funny. And also, again, further proves how hollow your point was.
Just like the left can't help themselves because they have no answers. Like, we're not saying all white men. We're not saying all young men. Oh, okay, good. So how can I be a man of whom you approve? Well, you just have to start by hating yourself. You have to start.
No. You just have to start and recognize that you can be free of like arbitrary constraints placed on you because you're a man. Like all the times people said, don't cry, you're a man. That's actually bullshit. Crying is healthy. Not crying is very unhealthy and self-destructive. Simple things like this. That's how you start. You actually start from a place of loving yourself, a place of caring about yourself and others.
The problem with toxic dude culture is that it self-spirals. They go online and make JQ jokes, cause it's edgy, and then go out and get destroyed. So then they go online and double down.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a stew, like a stewing in their emotions. But specifically emotions of like resentment and guilt and, you know, shoring up any of those feelings with more misogyny, more hatred directed outward and inward. And like, that's a burden men don't need to deal with. Like, there's a healthier way to be a man than constantly beating yourself up because you know, cried in front of your dad, or because you know, like doing something that is stereotypically not masculine. You know, like it's fine to do those things.
Start by hating yourself. And you have to start by taking it. You have to say, believe all women. Well, hold on a second, I'm a young man. I know some women. I wouldn't believe all of them. Well, then you're not. Well, then you're part of the problem. Well, hold on a second.
Again, that's not what believe all women tends to mean. I mean, like, I know that this can trip up some people, but the whole believe all women line is just that statistically, women are telling the truth when they make accusations of sexual assault. That doesn't mean it's always the case, always true, but like, just as a rule of thumb, if you know nothing else about the case, believing an initial accusation is actually a healthy thing to do. But there's also a big difference between like believe all women in like a colloquial social context versus like if you're a criminal investigator. You know, like they're two very different things. You don't need to delude yourself into thinking you're the criminal investigator. You're just like a bystander in the court of public opinion. Very different role.
Second. I do think, I am a young man. I do think that Black Lives Matter. Of course I do. But I also think that all lives matter. Well, sorry, you can't be included among us. You're one of those Trump people.
No, you can literally be included. It's just understanding that if you go into the venue of like a Black Lives Matter protest, like there's a certain amount of baggage connected to the All Lives Matter signs because of how they were used in opposition to the Black Lives Matter movement, which was specifically about racial injustice and addressing that so that all lives would matter. Again, when you clip these things without context, yeah, it's gonna sound wonky because they're slogans for a movement, and that movement has context.
Well, hold on a second. I am a young man, and I do believe that you should be free to love who you want. But I also see some value in the nuclear family and rearing of children. Well, no, then you're not.
Well, wait a minute. Literally, no one is saying like that straight people shouldn't be able to have families. That's not a mainstream opinion. That's not a mainstream position. No, like even the gays aren't going around being like, hey, we need to make sure straights stop having kids. Like, that's not a thing. That's an imagined like fever dream from the bigoted mind of Steven Crowder, right? Like, no one's saying straight people can't be together. What is happening, though, is people like Steven Crowder making the argument that like gay people shouldn't be together. That like trans people shouldn't be allowed to exist, because there's a difference between you yourself valuing, a nuclear family with a man and a woman in your household. There's a difference between you valuing that and forcing that to be the norm for other people who do not value the same things you do. That's your choice to make. You do not get to make other people's choices.
Well, hold on a second. I am a young man, okay? I don't want to be one of the bad ones, but I do believe that men and women are inherently different, and we probably excel in different roles. Well, then you just can't be among us. They cannot fix.
Notice how, again, Steven Crowder, and I want you, if you're conservative, you've made it this far into the video, Steven Crowder just said men are not as good as women. He just said it in his segment about how young men have been completely abandoned by Democrats. And in his segment where he's trying to make the case that conservatives, they really believe in men so much more than Democrats.
Different, and we probably excel. I am a young man, okay? I don't want to be one of the bad ones, but I do believe that men and women are inherently different, and we probably excel in different roles. Well, then you just can't.
Oh, men and women are inherently different, and we probably excel at different roles. Another way of saying that is that he thinks that women are better at some things than men, and that men are better at some things than women. But what is implicit in that kind of judgment is the idea that if you're a man, you are less in tune with your emotions. It is the like outgrowth of the idea that men, you're a man up, don't cry. Okay? Real men don't cry. And I just want to throw out there that, like, that is him saying men are not as good as women when it comes to these select things. And I'm here to tell you that's bullshit. Men feel just as much as women. Men can do the things that women do. Women can do the things that men do. These are not, like, locked in stone by any means. And to act like it is, to act like this should be the general rule that other people govern their lives by, that's trying to make other people's choices for them. And frankly, I view that as pretty antithetical to the very concept of freedom that Steven Crowder and conservatives in general tend to profess they believe in. But this is why I think a lot of conservatives are full of shit. Because ultimately what Steven Crowder wants to do is outlaw gay marriage. He wants to get rid of trans people as a concept. And it's, that's, I think, bad, actually. I think he's being disingenuous while pitching young men on this idea of and depraved ambience. You are 100% correct. He's trying to make the argument that men and women are good at different jobs, separate jobs, but they're equal in importance. He's making the separate but equal argument, except that I'm going to be honest with you here. Conservatives that make this argument do not believe in that equality. They do not believe that men and women being better or at certain things, or men being better at certain things and women being better at certain things, mean that they are both equal. When you start drilling down deeper into this kind of ideological, like, chain of events or chain sequence, the kind of ideology that Steven Crowder is peddling is that, well, the man should obviously be the head of the household. That's the one last step that they're missing. And then you have, like, a supremacy. You have, like, that idea that actually they're not equal. They want hierarchy. Exactly.
Can't be among us. They cannot fix it. And I mean, just proof positive of this is look at their vice chair, the DNC, David Hogg, who, by the way, just recently in a PR attempt swapped brains with an actual man in the latest documentary. Yeah. And that's just, look, I don't want to see it. I
have no idea what that was. I imagine it might have been a bit, but I don't know. That doesn't work for me either.
Want to see it.
What a man wants, what a man needs.
David Hogg has no idea.
The answer is boobs.
Yes.
That's all it is. It's like, it's
wants,
a super
needs,
quick song.
I'm not a boob guy.
And we are seeing the divide with.
Don't talk about boobs, guys. It's going to make Steven Crowder sad. He hasn't seen any in years.
Young men and young women. That is true. Young women are still voting overwhelmingly liberal, but that's true across pretty much all generations. And here's the thing. If you want to, I think what conservatives need to do, because for so long I've been saying, we have to go after the black vote. We have to go after. There was pretty much no effort. You'd be hard pressed to find someone who can say that there was a really concerted effort to win young Hispanic men this last election from Republicans, and certainly not enough to counteract the rhetoric of, hey, we need to get rid of illegal aliens, and the Democrats saying that means all brown people, right? And they overwhelmingly naturally veered towards Trump and Why? Because of masculinity, because they respect the masculinity. They respect the unapologetic, okay, we are going to do the right thing in spite of it being unpopular, for example. You can say what you want. It wasn't popular when Donald Trump said they're not sending their best and brightest. Back then, that was basically like a calling for another Reich, right? And they naturally...
Man, it's so interesting that eventually conservatives just say the quiet part out loud, isn't it? So interesting.
Even look with young black men, they tend to vote as a monolith because of NGOs and because of lobbyists and because of affirmative action. They tend to vote overwhelmingly Democrat, but they still, young black men, veered significantly more conservative without being pandered to. I don't think the answer for conservatives is to go, okay, we have young men now, or young white and Hispanic men, now we need to bring in another group. No, I think you need to keep doing this, keep doing what you're doing, solidify that, because people will naturally gravitate toward it. For women, probably not. Women who are married become much more conservative. Women who have children become much more conservative.
I wonder if that's because the way we have culturally created and upheld marriage in our society selects for those qualities.
Single women, whether they are 20 or 50, vote Democrat, statistically. If they are single, usually miserable, let's be honest, they vote Democrat. So the key...
And look, let's be honest, Steven Crowder is an expert on being single and miserable. He knows what he's talking about, ladies.
Here is to continue encouraging the family unit, to continue creating and fostering a culture of, hey, you know what? You missed the American dream post-World War II, right? Our greatest era. Well, a big part of that was the family unit. A big part of the American dream.
Yeah. It was the family unit. Definitely not like reaping the benefits of the Marshall Plan to rebuild the industrial capacity of the world, and also becoming one of the prime producers for the world following a collapse post World War II. You know, like definitely not any of that. Definitely not like a direct result of New Deal policies being implemented, and mass manufacturing taking off. And it was definitely because of the nuclear family, not because of all that other horse shit.
Was working hard and being okay with
the 90% wealth tax, a
single income household, a return to traditionalism. You create and you foster that environment. You'll continue.
Look, he's very pro-nuclear family, guys. He's going to get around to it eventually himself. Just, give him some time in the dating pool. All right.
To win young men. And as women get absorbed into those units, which they find out are actually better for them than the lie of becoming a boss girl, they'll become more conservative. It's still a tough nut to crack. But we see what happens returning Roe v. Wade, returning abortion to the states. Hey, you might as well say Hail Hitler, according to a lot of young single women out there. Hey.
Well, I didn't know that Stephen would be talking about an establishment of a Trump Reich in 2016, or talk about heiling Hitler. I didn't see that coming. Jeez Louise, dude.
Hey, Hobby Lobby providing 16 out of 21 forms of birth control to their employees. It still wasn't enough. You can't get through this or solve it by pandering. There's momentum with young.
But I do have to give him this, okay? Like, Steven Crowder understands fundamentally that it is like it's an existential struggle, like he understands like this is a fight, and in order to win it, you need to crush your opponent. It's not enough to just win the game and then turn around and do a sportsman-like handshake when it comes to the political arena. You have to crush your enemy, and you have to win and then continue implementing your policy. A lesson, unfortunately, our Democrats are too cowardly to learn at this particular juncture.
Young men.
Yeah.
By the way, of all races, continue with that, and if you create a strong foundation for a society, people will see it, and they'll become more conservative. Don't do the whole, how do we get the black vote? How do we get the Hispanic vote? How do we get the female vote? Do what you're doing, because we know the results will speak for themselves. And people right now are opening their eyes to the lie, especially after COVID, especially after George Floyd, the summer of love, especially after everything that we've, the 2020 election. This is something that you couldn't have created in a lab or with a Frank Luntz focus group in his toupee and silly little sneakers, where you say, hey, how do we reach, this reaches people. We have never seen young men, like we're seeing now with Gen Z men, overwhelmingly move to my right, your left. We can kind of only expect that as they get older. And if they're conservative now and you keep your foot on the gas, they're going to stay that way and become more right-leaning. You know why? Because it's the truth. It's what made this country great. That's what make America great is, again, strong families, strong communities. You reap the fruits of your labor and you become a good citizen.
Yeah, I don't think Steven Crowder's actually in favor of anyone reaping the fruits of their labor, considering his company's anti-worker policies. But okay, sir.
We follow rule of law. That's the message. It appeals to everyone. Do it and don't tiptoe.
And this guy knows a thing about tiptoeing.
Vagina is exactly what I would say if I wasn't here on YouTube. So go.
Oh my God. Dude just said so, like, he wasn't like fake saying those slurs either. He was just straight up saying them. Like he sat in his office at work, looked into a camera, said those words, and then had somebody bleep them out. That's crazy. Why do they keep bringing up the Summer of Love thing? Isn't that a 1970s? Yes, it's a 1960s thing, but they're saying they call like the George Floyd protests the Summer of Love. He's mentally 7. I don't know. I feel like someone older than 7 would have like the knowledge of slurs that he was using. Like he used some wild one. Like I heard one that I'm pretty sure is a slur for black men. And it was yeah, if you guys want to hear him say all those slurs, you could subscribe to him over on Rumble. Hey, do you want to hear him drop an F slur? Go watch his show on Rumble, everyone. Jesus Christ. This man needs to stop lying to himself and go suck some dick already. I mean, who's to say he's not, you know? But wow, okay, so that's what Steven Crowder's up to these days. Damn, that's crazy. Anyway, how about we just all agree that like the way Democrats actually appeal to working class men is with pro-working class policies. Simple as that. Just policies that materially help men and women and everyone else. Like that's what wins over working class voters. The kind of culture war shit that he's trying to push here, that like, oh yes, they're not voting for the Dems because the gays are around. Like that's bullshit. It's just bullshit. It's because the Dems aren't offering material improvements to their lives. Ultimately, material improvements will be what get people to vote for you. And I just have to say, like, he's doing the same shit that the Democrats do. This is pandering bullshit. I hope you guys understand what he's trying to make here is the conservative version of pandering bullshit to straight white guys. Like that's what he's trying to do here. He's trying to make pandering bullshit for straight white guys. And in that sense, he's just recreating what the Democrats have been doing. Like they can't even be original about their strategies here. Anyway, folks, that was certainly a segment.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, dating, flame more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.